Guys, it's Mark.
And it's Michelle.
And this is Mark and Michelle, obviously. Well, we wanted to talk to you guys tonight. We're going to start, we're going to try to do
a series,
a theme. And we thought we'd start this week with, and we've talked about this a little bit already, but why autism can be healed. And we're going to go into it more in depth. And tonight we're going to talk about neuroplasticity. All right.
In other words, Mark's going to talk about it.
Okay. We'll talk about it. Okay. Because
I just mean it.
Hey guys, and
I might just throw in some jokes.
Okay. You're going to be the monkey with the fez.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about neuroplasticity tonight in our series of why autism can be healed. And we'll be talking about different subjects this week, but tonight, neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? It is the ability of the brain to change over a person's lifetime. And it's just that simple. Because in some cases, it compensates for when some parts of the brain aren't working as well, and other parts of the brain take over the jobs of the less functional parts. And let me read a little more, a better definition. Neuroplasticity, also known as brain plasticity, neuroelasticity, or neuroplasticity, is the ability of the brain to change continuously throughout an individual's life. An example, brain activity associated with a given function can be transferred to a different location. The proportion of gray matter can change, and synapses may strengthen or weaken over time. Now, let me add this. This is not part of the definition, but the aim of neuroplasticity is to optimize the neural networks during phylogenesis, ontogeny, and physiological learning, as well as after brain injury. Phylogenesis is basically how a species grows over time, a particular species, like humans, and how our brains develop. That's phylogenesis.
As a child ages.
Into a teenager, and each species has a pattern of how their brains develop. Ontogeny is also overall growth over a lifetime.
Why do we need both words?
One has to do with specific species. And ontogeny just has to do with growth in general.
Okay.
And one phylogenesis is specific, ontogeny is a little more general. And physiological learning. So in other words, how the brain learns, but then changes as it learns. So neuroplasticity, and what I like about this whole thing is this one single word. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change. And to me, the second most important word is continuously in that entire definition.
And then the next most important part is throughout an individual's life.
Yes. The whole phrase, to change continuously throughout an individual's life. Now, the reason I point that out is I have heard a lot of folks in the neurodiversity movement say,
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Krista, we're talking about neuroplasticity, guys. But I've heard a lot of the high-functioning adults in the neurodiversity movement talk about autism is hardwired. Your brain isn't hardwired. The rest of your body isn't hardwired. Like I was talking with one of my bosses tonight at the store, and she has a daughter who's on the severe end of the spectrum. She said, I've seen my autistic daughter change. Her symptoms get better and worse over the course of her lifetime. And I think her daughter's about 18 now. And so I said to my boss, I said, people act like we're heads in jars. Like all of a sudden our brain is separate from our body, and no matter what happens to our body, our brains don't change. That is just utter BS. If your body can heal, then your brain must heal too, because it's not separate from the rest of you. And your brain gets supplied by the same blood system, circulatory system that the rest of your body gets supplied by. So what
Talk
goes
about the blood-brain barrier.
well, the blood-brain barrier really is more for keeping large organisms, more on the level of bacteria, out of your brain. But the blood-brain barrier, the meninges, there's 3 layers, and they also help protect the brain from physical damage. But the thing is, there are different diseases that you can get.
Like meningitis.
Right? There's bacterial meningitis, there's viral meningitis. Okay, we're talking about bacteria and viruses.
In the brain.
In the meninges, right? And but then syphilis can get into the brain, and that's bacterial. The blood-brain barrier does not protect you like you think it does. I mean, not in that sense. And besides, the chemical compounds can cross that. Heavy metals, for one. But then heavy metals are in your blood system anyway if you're exposed to them. And so the whole idea that the brain is hardwired is I'm not going to use the word fictional. It is. False is not quite the word I'm looking for, but it is false. If anything in your body changes, I mean, your skin heals up when you get a cut, right? When you have an appendectomy, I had appendicitis when I was in high school or junior high school, and if the body didn't heal, I just would have died after that appendectomy. And I'll say it, it's crappy thinking by people who are really emotionally reacting more than anything when they say, autism is hardwired in your brain. Really, Sean, you yourself can tell me it's not. I can tell me it's not. But you know what? Our wives and our girlfriends can tell us it's not. She saw me go through all those changes. Even my parents saw me go through changes.
Even I went through changes.
Exactly.
Medical Medium talks about how ADHD systems like the frontal, the things that are affected by the metals,
Mm-hmm.
The other parts of the brain take over and try to do those functions. But that's why it's so hard for a person with ADHD to focus, because their brains are using different parts of their brain that aren't usually what would be used for whatever the function is but that's a brain that has already done something that it wasn't supposed to do that it did. That's neuroplasticity in itself. So metals deposited, so the brain went, okay, then I'll figure out a place right here to do this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then once you remove those metals and the parts that are supposed to do it start working, it's a miracle.
That kind of leads me to this next.
Oh, wow, cool.
Because she was talking about when the brain goes back to like it is supposed to work. There's a word that people get upset by, normal. Right? Okay, let me be straightforward. When I talk about normal, this is what I talk about. The human brain has capacity for language. It has the capacity for decision making. It has the ability to process information visually, auditorily, taste-wise, that kind of thing. Those are basic functions, physiological functions of the human brain. The normal human brain should be able to do those, right? So when people say, well, and I remember another coworker, I said, well, a normal brain, and she goes, well, whatever that is. What she was talking about is the ability of the human brain, and I won't even say brain in this case, mind, to have preferences. Preferences aren't normal. Preferences are exactly that. They're subjective. But the fact that the human brain has areas for speech processing and speech, hearing, decision making, that kind of stuff, means that is what normal human brains do. That's what I mean when I say normal. And I'm not talking about preferences. Preferences aren't basic physiological features of the brain
Right,
that a
so
human can't do without.
Then we have to get into mind versus brain.
Right. And I think there's a basic question in psychology: is the mind located in the brain? So we won't go there because I don't know. And there's a lot of philosophy behind that, and I don't know what it is. And I didn't look it up before we started. So, but anyway, that's
so just
another
because
reason.
Michelle might have a comment, we're not going to talk about it because he didn't look it up.
You can talk about it. Go ahead.
Well, there are some cultures who think the mind is the soul.
Mm-hmm. Well, ancient Celtic tribes, they thought that.
So the mind, which is why Mark still had preferences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good point. I hadn't really thought about that.
When he was autistic.
Right.
Which is why there was a personality to emerge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, and if autism was hardwired, then everybody with autism would really look like clones of each other. Almost. The symptoms might be slightly different, but pretty much you'd just be nothing. If autism was hardwired, you'd just be nothing but a sum of all the symptoms of autism. And I wasn't that.
No.
I was a lot more than that. That, in fact, saying that autism is who I am really demeans you as a person. I mean, it's like you shouldn't even, autism, in fact, saying that makes autism more important than your own humanity. It is not more important than my humanity.
But that would have to be a belief change for someone who believes that.
Well, it would be. And, that's why we're talking, because we hope to be planting seeds for folks who do believe that, And you can get mad over stuff like that. And I've encountered a lot of adults on the spectrum who do get mad when you talk about that. But when you get mad, that means you're not thinking, you're reacting. It's odd that you can't think and react at the same time.
Well, doesn't Dr. Amen talk about that?
Yeah, he might.
Rang a bell.
Mm-hmm, he might. I haven't. It's been a long time. You read
a
couple of his books.
It rang a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do it at the same time.
Right. Well,
I'll have to look that up.
I remember back during the last presidential election here in the U.S., there was a study done on people reacting versus thinking. And they showed that you can't do both at the same time. You can do one or the other. Well, it makes sense. But most political ads are geared towards emotions, which is why people react. Truth is, most ads, whether they're political or not, are geared towards emotions, because that's how you get people to act, is by motivating them, which is an emotion. So, but back to our subject tonight, neuroplasticity. Think about this. If the brain couldn't change, then why detox it? If the brain couldn't change, then any physical damage that you get may not be, for a prime minister or what? One of our friends from Canada, she says, elections in Canada tonight. So, like I was saying, your brain hurts? Yeah, what, because of the elections? Yeah, our brains hurt because of the elections here too, a lot of times. And but like a friend of mine that he and I went to school back in the 80s, he suffered some brain trauma because of a car accident he was in. And he says that over the years, it's been like maybe it's been about 5 years that he's had it, but he said his brain has improved. But apparently brain cells don't grow quickly. They don't replicate quickly. So it's taken him 5 years just to get a little bit back, And so he's doing really well, but okay, all right. So were they not in government up until tonight? And our other friend from Canada says yes, the Liberal Party won a minority. So because we're getting blow-by-blow Canadian elections.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And our friend tells us that the conservatives had been denied power in Canada. So I'm guessing that's good for Canadian politics. So, all right. But the whole idea that the brain can't change actually gives you no hope. I mean, it may give you something concrete to grab onto and attach yourself to, but it's a dependence. You don't want things, and I understand, I'm starting to really understand where a lot of these folks in the neurodiversity group are coming from. They want something to make them special, and their autism does. I get that. But NTs have things that make them special, and it may be brain things, it may be hair color, maybe skin color, you know? So that everybody wants something to make them special. So if you choose to make that something autism to make you special, that's great. But that doesn't mean that other people who have had a hard life with their autism, like me and others I've known, that doesn't mean we're not special. It just means we had a hard time with our autism, and we're wanting to really put it behind us, because I know I really wanted to. And I'm glad that my brain was able to change. I'm glad now that I could say, hey, I am autism symptom free. She's glad, because it was hard on her too. It was hard on me. It was hard on her. It was hard on other people I worked with, you know. And so now I've come out the other side, and there's still healing to do, but I'm glad that I have a neuroplastic brain, because that's actually made our lives much more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so you can cling to the fact that that autism is who you are. That's great. That's your business. But remember, other people think differently than you, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So anything else you wanted to say?
No.
Nope. All right, guys, I think we'll let you go tonight, and we will see you tomorrow. Continue with the
heavy metal detox smoothie, celery juice, lemon water,
and
download our book.
Download the book at www.healyourautism.com/buy the book. And there's a bunch of freebies that go with it that make it all worthwhile. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.